All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to a brand new explainer. Today we're tackling, well, what I think is the ultimate paradox of our modern age, having absolutely everything, yet somehow feeling like we have nothing. I mean, we live in this era of just unprecedented comfort, right? Yet true lasting fulfillment seems harder to grasp than ever before. So today, we're going to explore a truly fascinating philosophical text, the Vachanamrit, to see if it holds the answer.
It's a pretty serious question, honestly. Are you truly happy? Look, despite immense wealth, crazy technological advancements, and all the conveniences we have in modern developed nations, and yeah, even with places like Finland consistently topping the World Happiness Report, true, deep mental satisfaction continues to evade so many of us. We often kind of confuse a fleeting good mood with actual enduring happiness. And our source material today suggests that this exact confusion is why we feel so unfulfilled. Because you see, true happiness isn't circumstantial. It's a profound internal state of being.
To figure out exactly why that is, we're going to use the philosophical framework of the Vachanamrit to essentially climb the mountain of human experience. Our agenda for today is simple. 1. True happiness. 2. 3 types of worldly joys. 3. Eternal nirgun happiness. 4. The path of Ashtanga Yoga. And finally, 5. The power of true devotion.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the search for true happiness, which naturally leads us into Section 2, 3 types of worldly joy.
Okay, so to diagnose our unhappiness, the text brilliantly breaks down human experience into 3 levels, or gunas. Think of them like, different altitudes on a mountain we're climbing. We start all the way down at the lowest valley, tamasic joy. Now this is essentially that heavy comfort you find in neglecting duties and just succumbing to sheer laziness. It's that illusion of happiness you get when you sleep the entire day away, avoid all your responsibilities, and just completely veg out. The text describes it as a state rooted entirely in ignorance and illusion from beginning to end. Sure, it might feel super easy in the moment, but let's be real, it ultimately leaves you stagnant and totally unfulfilled.
Moving a bit further up the mountain, we reach the chaotic middle ground of Rajasic joy. And honestly, this is where most of the modern world operates. It's the joy born directly from the senses and material objects. You know the feeling. It's the thrill of buying a brand new car, eating a ridiculously luxurious meal, or finally getting that promotion. People endlessly chase this material wealth and sensory pleasure because, well, it doesn't require any special internal practice or discipline. You just consume.
Now the text uses some absolutely brilliant comparative imagery here. It says, Rajasic joy starts sweet, like nectar, that initial rush of a new purchase or experience, but it eventually turns toxic, almost like poison. Why? Because the novelty fades, leaving you wanting more, just trapped in this cycle of endless craving. Whereas the next level up, sattvic joy, is the exact opposite. It begins feeling bitter, like poison, because it actually requires the strict discipline of hard work and self-control, before eventually blooming into sweet, lasting nectar.
And that brings us right to sattvic joy. This is like a peaceful, high-altitude base camp. It doesn't come from external objects. It's born of a pure intellect, self-knowledge, and real spiritual practice. It requires the continuous and, often super difficult practice of reading scriptures, meditating, and mastering your own mind. It's hard work at first, that poison phase we just talked about, but it ultimately purifies the intellect, destroys sorrow, and gives you this deep, enduring peace. But what happens when we leave even these highly refined earthly camps behind and finally summit the absolute peak?
Let's find out in Section 3, the eternal nirgun happiness.
Shriji Maharaj, who is the central figure in the Vachanamrit, describes this ultimate state as nirgun happiness. And wow, it is a divine, eternal joy completely independent of any physical elements. He describes it visually as a divine light shining like millions of moons. It's a state of consciousness so incredibly profound that even a single, fleeting moment of this joy feels like thousands of years of absolute, uninterrupted bliss. I mean, it is literally the ultimate spiritual summit.
The core argument the text makes here is that all worldly joys, even if we're talking about great kings or powerful celestial beings, they are all fundamentally temporary. They're going to end eventually. But nirgun happiness, that is eternal and indestructible. Because it doesn't rely on your physical body or the material universe, there's just no way it can be destroyed by changing circumstances. It builds in this really powerful, logical progression. It states that an animal's joy is surpassed by a human's joy by a king's by a celestial being's, and so on, all the way up to that divine nirgun joy. So as intelligence seekers analyze this hierarchy, they naturally just lose interest in the lower tiers. I mean, why settle for the fleeting joy of an earthly king when the eternal bliss of the divine is actually possible, right? They aim straight for the absolute peak. So, how do we discipline our chaotic minds to actually get up there?
That brings us to Section 4, the path of Ashtanga Yoga. So the text introduces the ancient 2,000-year-old system of Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. And let me tell you, this is an extremely arduous 8-step path designed to completely master the mind through intense physical, ethical, and respiratory control. It moves from basic moral restraints, yama and niyama, through physical postures, breath control, withdrawing the senses, and deep concentration, all the way to samadhi, which is that ultimate state of meditative union.
Interestingly enough, there's a bit of a modern irony here. While the whole world celebrates this practice today, think of International Yoga Day, right? Modern adaptations usually only scratch the absolute surface. They largely focus on just two of those limbs, asana, which are the physical postures, and pranayama, the breath work. Now, while that's great for physical health, focusing only on these ignores the much deeper and vastly more difficult psychological stages required to truly rein in a wandering mind. Because this full path requires stepping away from the world entirely, a much more direct alternative is definitely needed for everyday people like us.
And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, the power of true devotion. This brilliantly illustrates the solution provided in the text. You see, in traditional yoga, you use intense breath control to kind of force the mind into submission. But Sriji Maharaj flips the script entirely. He says that instead of using the breath to fight the mind, true devotion, or anchoring your mind directly on the divine form, naturally brings the physical senses and the breath under control. So it's a path of love and focus rather than just pure mechanical force.
But to be clear, it's not just some vague, fluffy feeling of devotion. To walk this direct path successfully, the text states that a seeker must firmly hold on to three very distinct pillars. First, Atmanishta, that's the realization that you are the soul, not the body. Second, a deep, unshakable knowledge of the divine's greatness. And third, strict, unwavering adherence to your moral daily duties and the commands of the scriptures.
It all comes together in this really beautiful equation. By combining deep spiritual knowledge and self-realization with a genuine, humble commitment to your everyday duties, without ever becoming arrogant or, thinking you've somehow made it, the seeker attains the ultimate grace. You don't have to flee to a cave in the Himalayas. You achieve the highest state by living purely and keeping your mind anchored to the divine while still functioning normally in the world.
The source material actually concludes with a profound sense of immense gratitude. It notes that this incredible framework, demystifying the highest spiritual truths and offering a practical, accessible path, was compassionately gifted to humanity. It takes the ultimate summit, something that once required literal lifetimes of grueling physical asceticism, and makes it accessible to anyone who's willing to cultivate true knowledge and devotion.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. Knowing the difference between the heavy comfort of laziness, the fleeting and ultimately toxic nectar of material senses, and the eternal, indestructible light of divine joy, ask yourself, what kind of happiness are you chasing today? Which mountain are you currently climbing? Thank you so much for exploring this profound text with me. Keep learning and keep ascending.